as well, Joy, or you're?
Sure. Great. We'll give it a few more minutes for some more people to come in off of the waiting room. Hopefully you're in a warm place. You can put into the chat where you're coming from, what the name of your JCC is, or what city you're from. That way we all know who's here. Part of these peer communities is so that we can network with each other, and it's nice to see names and faces, but if we don't know where we're from, it makes it hard to connect. So it's great to see Chicago in the
Oh,
house.
Chicago's cold.
Yeah.
Oh,
Palo Alto, hopefully you're not too cold.
hey, Adam.
Awesome. Common Point. I worked at the Central Queens Y when it first opened, 1982. Yay.
Hello,
Great
I'm sure.
JCC.
I'm sure
Yeah.
Dale sends her regards every time.
I'm sure. Dale was the aquatics director that I hired when we opened the building, so it's
Wow.
long history. It's a good thing. All right. Well, I see that it's 2 minutes after the hour, and I'm going to get us started. We'll just keep admitting people as they come in. Audrey, if you take a look at the waiting room and let people in, that would be great. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Joy Brand Richardson. I'm the Vice President of Professional Development at JCC Association. I use the pronouns she, her. I have shoulder brown hair and glasses. We say these visuals for people who are not necessarily on camera right now or those who are visually impaired. And one of the things that JCC Association understands is that gathering people and professionals from across the continent is very important. It strengthens the JCC movement, and these peer communities are one of the initiatives that we've put together in order to achieve that goal. We're happy that you're here, and we encourage and remind you that to remind your colleagues that there are dozens of these peer communities that they can participate in as well. So please check in on your colleagues and make sure that they know about these things. We start our convenings with some guiding principles, and we know that there are people who are here new to a peer community, new to their jobs. There's also people who have been in their jobs for a very long time. And there may be concepts or information that feels commonplace to some people, but it may feel something brand new to another. And I hope that you're able to take something away from each one of the peer community convenings that you attend. Please approach each other with respect, invite questions for clarity if there's anything that you need. We're going to allow closed captioning. So if you need that, you can put that on. And today's session is being recorded. It will be posted on the JCC Resource Center, so where the other ones are as well. So you can go back and record, watch the recording, and share it with your colleagues. So I'd like to introduce you to Audrey Edwards. She is the volunteer chairperson of this peer community. Her bio is on our JCC Resource Center page. Audrey, thank you so much for holding this role as chairperson of this peer community. We are so grateful to you for taking this role. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to you so that you can introduce our session.
Thank you, Joy, and thanks for hosting and facilitating this. I appreciate it. So I think in my letter, when I invited all of you to this session, I started it by talking about when you, oh, if there's noise in your background, I'm going to ask you to mute. See if we can figure out which member can't move their upper body. I talked about when you meet somebody and you talk to someone and you have those head shaking moments, when what they're talking about resonates and you're really on the same page. And I felt that way with Shayna and felt that I had to share her with all of you. Quite a few of you work with Shayna. She's based out of Boston. She is currently the regional segment manager for the YMCA JCC segment. She's been a tremendous asset and value to a few of you who have worked with her, as has Life Fitness. One of the reasons I think Shayna is such a great partner for us is she began her career as the health and wellness director for YMCAs. She was at 2 branches. I think she spent 6+ years at the Y and then started working at the vendors. She was at Cybex and is now at Life Fitness. I will let Shayna introduce her session, but grab a pen and a pad of paper because I think there are going to be a lot of takeaways and a lot of great tools that you're going to get from this today. So Shayna, thank you in advance, and off you go.
Thank you, Audrey. I am going to go off camera and then share my screen. One sec.
This is always the part of the Zoom meeting where you've practiced before everybody comes
I
in.
just did.
And
I
then-
know.
It's okay. We've all been there.
All right. Let's see if I did the right one.
Looks
think you
good.
did.
It's coming up.
Yep.
Okay. Am I in presenter mode?
You
can
are.
see just the slide. Perfect. Okay. So thank you very much, Joy and Audrey, for having me today. For those of you who I have not met, my name is Shayna Heiss. I have had I would say an interesting, but also wonderful career path to get to where I am today. I've done, a short stint in the YMCA's. The good chunk of my career has been with Cybex and Life Fitness, and I've kind of held different roles between sales and education. Education is in my heart and blood, and I love it so much. And for those of you that I have worked with, I think it comes through when I talk about product and layouts and just how we can engage with members more. So I'm really excited to present today. And I wanted to just go through just high overview of what, hold on one second as I need to get rid, there we go. So coming from Life Fitness and Hammer Strength, part of my role is not only support our sales team and understanding how they can work better with our JCCs and our YMCAs, but also my goal is to bring added value to all of you outside of a transactional relationship. Coming from my background, I truly valued the partnerships that I've had with my vendors. And I think there's so much more that we can always bring to the table other than quotes and layouts and equipment. And so that's, I'd like to say that's how I got to the position I'm in today, because I truly find so much value in the, other stuff. And so we really highlight what we call the pillars of partnership. For today, we're going to focus on two of my favorites, which is the data and insights part, as well as education. So high level overview, this is our team. We have a full team of us that actually supports the YMCA and the JCC segment for our company. And all of us have either come from a Y background or a club background or sports background. So Forrest Corey, he is our fearless leader. He oversees nonprofits and as of this year, also Campus Rec. And Gary, so for those of you on the West Coast, probably looks very familiar. Gary has been in this industry for 17 years with both Cybex and Life Fitness, and he covers our West Coast. Just joined us this past year. He's from North Carolina, and he was with the YMCA of the Triangle for 13 years prior. And then there's me. So I cover the Northeast and the Midwest. So for today's webinar, we're going to discuss fitness trends in the industry. I like to do a little pre-post COVID trend outlook from ACSM. We're going to look into our industry as a whole and how it's been tracking in terms of equipment focus. And then we'll spend some time talking about how we can use tools and resources and profiling to help you all make better decisions by identifying who you're truly serving, so that at the end of the day, you can create a better member experience, and hopefully more membership retention. So I'm sure that this is not anything new, or it's not the first time any of you have seen this trend report. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on this, but I do want to walk through some key things that really stick out to me. One of the biggest ones being traditional strength moved into the top 5 fitness trends for this year. What I do truly love so much about data and trend reports like this is that it validates what all of us have been seeing over the past year and a half. Every single day we see a lot of these trends, firsthand, and it's so nice when they come out and you're like, oh, I knew that's what we were seeing happen. And really, I think for when it comes to trends and when it comes to this, why traditional strength really stuck out to me, is that we are continuing to see, gyms starting to look at us for, layouts and floor plans to be different. They want to downsize cardio. They want to create more open space. We want to bring in more strength equipment. I always think back to when I worked for the Y. I was there in the early 2000s, and everything was cardio, cardio, cardio. Audrey, I think you were at the Boston J around that same time. It was, you were elbow to elbow with the person next to you. There were sign-up sheets to get on a piece of cardio. And that wasn't even during right now in January, where it's all, everybody coming in from New Year's resolution. That was just the way of fitness back then. And so for me, it's really cool to see how things ebb and flow. And coming from a background of exercise science, I know how important that strength training is. So it's really great to see that traditional strength training has hit this top 5. From the why behind it, why strength, why and less cardio. I think obviously COVID had a lot to do with it. I think from a standpoint of us being stuck in our homes, people found something from a cardio standpoint that stuck. Maybe they picked up running or swimming, or maybe they bought a bike that they're still using and isn't being used as a coat rack. I think, if you think back to the 2020 during COVID, it was, oh, the gyms are going to close. Everything's going to online, digital fitness, and people are going to work out at their homes. And I know all of us in this industry were like, there's no way that's going to happen. We know the power of community. We know what that brings to these spaces and why people need to engage, and being at home doesn't really do that to you. I think from a mindset standpoint, I think the other piece of it is that, what COVID brought was the ability to do exercises differently. People added in cardio into their strength workouts. They're doing bits and bursts of, intervals, or they maybe added in some Metcon training. And I think the other piece of it is we're seeing these influencers who really saw a huge boom in their careers during COVID and post-COVID, and are still continuing to grow. But they're really opening the eye of different generations, and how different generations are viewing exercise and responding to these trends. So I think regardless of the reason, strength growing and becoming this top 5 is huge. And as a reference, last year it was listed as the 17th trend for 2024 for ACSM. So if we now look at pre-COVID, one thing that always sticks out to me is wearable technology. It has been trending, and I think the number one, I think the lowest it dropped was ranked number 3. But for the I think since 2018, it's just been in that top 3. I love to see this, and if we go back, you can see it's the top trend for 2025. I'd love to, sorry. Somebody have a question, or is it just chatter in the back? Okay. So I think wearables is such a great trend because it's accountability, right? We can look at, we can see that people are invested in their workouts. They want to see their progression. Now with how wearables has evolved, and you've got your Aura rings where it's tracking your sleep cycles, it's tracking recovery, stress regulation. I think all of that is trending in this direction that it's overall, allowing them to hit these wellness goals more than ever before. So it's, really cool to see that it's been living in that same spot. And if we go, back to 2025 trends compared to 2019, a lot of things have stayed pretty consistent. Mobile apps, data tracking, which I think all ties to that wearable. But where we're seeing things almost like grouped together more. So it used to be broken out like Pilates and yoga, and we're seeing things more now as mindfulness or health, exercise for mental health. So, we're seeing more things evolve and grow and together, which is really great to see. The other piece of data that I really like to look at, and I think really helps us identify and validate some of the trends that we're seeing is through Track My Gym. So if you're not familiar with this company, they work with customers like yourself to help track gym usage and facility, which allows you to make better decisions. So obviously, most cardio today has some level of connectivity that allows you to track usage of cardio machines. But what's always been left on the backside was strength. So it became that guessing game of like, oh, well, I think I need more racks because people are always waiting for them, or I think we need another bench, or I think we're seeing people wait for a cable machine. We probably need to add another cable. What Track My Gym does is they put sensors on all equipment. So not just cardio, it's selectorized, it's cables, it's racks, it's benches, it's even functional space. And it gives them this data for individual facilities to say, like, here's what your members are using, here's what they're not using. From our standpoint, we partner with Track My Gym for a overall, like, what is the trend that you're seeing from all of these customers you're working with? So this is that conglomerate of all of that data. And again, it's validating what we're seeing, right? We're seeing that cardio, it's not going away. Cardio is just decreasing, right? So people aren't engaging with just cardio anymore. We're seeing a huge increase in free weight training and resistance training, and functional training still staying the same. So again, it really is great to just validate what we see every single day. The other piece of research that I wanted to just quickly overview is through Murphy's research. Murphy's polls survey results. They've been doing it since I think July of 2018. Don't quote me on that. I might be off by a year or so, but every quarter we get a state of our health report. And what they do is they will survey a bunch of different individuals who are fitness engaged. And so what that data helps us look at, and that can help you look at, is just how are people engaging in facilities, what's important to them. And some of the things that I pulled from the report, because the quarter reports are very, very long, was personal priorities, because a couple things stuck out to me on the personal priority standpoint. That we're seeing more people wanting to work out to improve diet, nutrition, and we're seeing people want to manage stress or and anxiety and improve their physical fitness, improve my mental health. So all of the things that, if we go back to ACSM, it's all connected. The other thing I like to look at here is what sorry, this is my duplicate, is what are the barriers that are causing people to not achieve their goals? Again, we can see what every day when they're at your JCC, and we know some of these are true, but to see it on paper really helps kind of hit it home. The first being lack of motivation. We know that a lack of motivation can lead to people not achieving their goals, lack of energy, lack of money, not finding exercise enjoyable. So if we look at this data from a standpoint of like getting into the exerciser's mind, it helps us, one, have some empathy behind it. And then we can look at how do we program or build out spaces to help people achieve their goals and break through these barriers. The other thing is they look at what motivates people. Number one is obviously to feel better, lose weight, improve mood, reduce stress, prevent future medical issues, look better, improve move and reduce stress. So there's a lot of key things that help motivate people to achieve their fitness goals. And then the other slide that I wanted to pull was looking at workout selection and how people are engaging when it comes to fitness. So people are really interested in doing something that they can do on their own. They pick workouts that they have fun doing. They pick workouts that help burn calories, that allow them to be outside, that help build muscle, that help break a sweat. So again, I don't think any of this is truly a, oh my gosh, wow moment, but I think what it does is just, it validates all of the things that we continue to see in the, day after day, in our facilities. So we have all of this data to support how our members are engaging with fitness, how they're engaging with exercise and equipment, and really how our industry is trending. But I want to shift focus on how does this all correlate to increasing your members' experience, increasing their engagement, and increasing their retention, and helping you build a stronger community within your JCC. So we can't just put a bunch of equipment in a space. We can't just offer, generic programming or trending programming and expect people to come and stay. What truly needs to happen is we need to identify exactly who we are serving or not serving, and then we can focus on those members and what their wants and needs are and what their goals are. So this workshop that I'm going to go through, I've done a little spin on it. A lot of this is more of a in-person breakout session. But the goal of this, I want to walk through this with you. And then after, I will send the step-by-step of doing of how to build this building personas out, because I encourage you to do this within your JCCs with your team, because it truly becomes an eye-opening experience. So if you don't want to rush and take notes, I will have everything be, we'll send everything out to you. So what's the importance of understanding your members? For those of you that are big fans of Simon Sinek, you've probably heard a message from his book, The Start with the Why, where he says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So as leaders in fitness, it's really, really important to understand our members' why. What drives them, what's their, what motivates them to come in your building every day? What are their goals? What are their desires? Why are they there? When we can connect with their purpose, it helps us build a stronger relationship. It helps foster loyalty. It creates a more meaningful community. It helps us create more meaningful programming, because at the end of the day, it's not what we're doing in our JCCs, but why we do it that truly matters. So we're going to spend some time looking at and building out some personas. So forever, we've really relied a lot on demographics. I mean, I did it when I worked for the Y. You know, you've got your active older adults. We serve families, we serve seniors, we serve, young adults, we serve single adults. And you have your demographics, and that's great. And it's a great starting point. And demographics, are really age, gender specific, but it pigeonholes us and it puts all of these members in one group. And I think the approach, although very straightforward, does often fall short when it comes to creating meaningful programs or looking at things differently, whether it's a layout or building out a new space. So although, we've learned that demographics alone are not the most effective way to understand our members, it is a point that we need to look at. But a story that I wanted to share with you, just kind of about this, is that, and hopefully this helps kind of hit home. I was touring a JCC in New Jersey with our local rep. And as we're walking through, we're on like a turf area. And I watched this man who maybe was 75, could be like, older, maybe closer to 80, doing 20 to 25 perfect push-ups. Now, that if I were to categorize him in a demographic, he'd be a senior. And if we are, creating senior programming, a senior programming for, what we would build out would not have anything to do with body weight training and, heavy lifting or benching or squat. It wouldn't be on a turf space, right? It would be a seated Pilates, or it would be a low impact aerobics, or it would be beginner strength training. It would be a more gentle approach, a silver sneakers class, a water aerobics, because that is traditionally kind of how we've positioned this, like, okay, well, let's create a program for seniors. Well, what if that, hypothetically, that JCC served a good portion of these strong, very fit 75-year-old senior population? Well, if I'm creating programming for, a more gentle, low impact approach, I'm missing a whole big portion of who I'm supposed to be serving. And so, although demographics are great, it could also, it's not the end all be all. And we need to look at breaking it down even further. So I'm going to kind of walk through this, but if I were to ask you to think of a person that's going to fit into this demographic. So I want you to, as I'm walking through this, just start thinking of who this could be. A male, born in 1948, raised in the UK, has been married twice, lives in a castle, wealthy and famous. Sure, a lot of you pictured this man right here, King Charles. This is his demographic segmentation, right? He's male, he was married, he lives in a castle, he's wealthy and famous. But it also is Ozzy Osbourne. So to what I just said prior about my story of being at the JCC, we need to look at more than just demographic segmentation, because obviously, as we look at this, the lifestyle and who these two people are, although in the same demographic, are two very different people. So to understand both of the personas, we need to kind of go beyond that. And we need to really look at how do we build out these personas for our members. So if we were to take King Charles persona and break it down into more than just demographic, it allows us to include things like, what are his interests? What are his hobbies, his habits? What are his motivations? What are some pain points that he has? What's his preference in regard to brands that he interacts with and purchases from regularly? So if we go through, he has interest in cars and politics and wine. His habits, he attends social events. He likes to go on walks while listening to the radio in the morning. He interacts and purchases from very high-end brands. His motivation is to stay in shape so he can attend his social events and enjoy life with his family. Pain points, he doesn't like to work out. He wants guidance for injury prevention. So if you look at his now profile and his persona that we've built out, now he becomes very different than Ozzy Osbourne. They're not the same people, although from a demographic standpoint they are, but everything else from a persona standpoint is different. So it allows, us to really look at things differently, in regards to who we're serving and the members that we work with. So if we begin to break down the types of personas, you'll start with kind of two major groups. Those two groups are people that do business with you and those who do not. And then you can break that down even further. So you can think of, for those that are your members that do business with you, your happy members and your unhappy members. And then you've got your desired members, so those that you want to do business with but are not. And then the fourth type of persona that you could look at is your non-members. Maybe those are the people who are not a good fit for your JCC and you don't want to focus on them. So you really can take a look at everything. It doesn't always have to be who I want to cater more to, who am I trying to get in the door. It can be, who is the member that's happy that I want to retain? Because I want them to tell their friends. I want more people to come. I want them to be my cheerleader. Or if I have a member who's unhappy, why are they unhappy? Let's dive into that. What is causing that unhappiness? How do we get them on the other side of it? And then the third piece, that those members that you're not catering to and you've been trying really hard. I remember from the Y World, it was our teens. We could never figure out how to crack the code. I think it's still a challenge this day of like, how do you work with the teens? And so I think, if you break it down into these, it allows us then to focus in on who we want to create that persona with. So how do we do this? We pick who we want to focus on. There's some key things that we want to consider and what information we want to build around to create this profile for them. Demographics is still going to be in there because although it's not going to be our focus, it still does play a role in the beginning portion of building out this this profile. With that, it's psychographics. These are probably the most important. This is going to be their goals. What makes them tick? What are their pain points? What are their challenges? What motivates them to come in the door? And as you build out the psychographic, this is really the most important layer in building out these profiles and really where it helps us get into the mindset of our members or our potential members. Other things are, what's their profession? That could take a huge role in who they are and what they want. And then bonus info. And so what that looks like is, I'm sure as we're going, you might have been going through this, you've created a picture of somebody in your JCC that you're like, I need to cater more to that person. Maybe it's Bob, who he comes in every single day and does the same exact, he sits on the same exact recumbent bike, does the same exact workout, reads his newspaper, barely moving the bike. And you're like, gosh, I really want to do something more to help motivate him or help him see, more results. So, create a picture representing who this person is. Create a little fictional bio of them. What makes them tick? What makes them, what's important to them? What's not important to them? And then really, I think at the end of the day, it's why all this is important is it helps us get into the mind of that exerciser, of this demographic. So for the purpose of today's presentation, I'm going to share some mosaic profiling that I've pulled via Placer AI. So Placer is a tool that we use at Life Fitness that helps us pull location analytics and also pulls Experian Mosaic profiling. So although a little creepy in theory when you think of it, every time you have your phone and you allow your phone or your watch to track where you are, all that data goes somewhere. And companies like Placer purchase that data. So it's not that they're tracking you as an individual. It is a pulls all of that tracking for specific regions. So if I were to pull Placer data for the JCC Rockland, we'd be able to pull their members who have enabled the enabled tracking on their phone or their watch, and that data allows us to pull stuff like this. So this is a report. So we have a combined YMCA JCC nationwide location. These are the top 5 Experian Mosaic profile. So these are the top 5 types of members that the YMCAs and the JCCs nationally are serving. I don't have the report yet, but we did ask to have the Y and the J separated. So this may be skewed a little bit. And once I have that, I'm more than willing to share it with everybody. But you can see that these are broken up into different categories. So the second one, booming with confidence, that's that traditional boomer population, right? It's giving the demographic. But what I love about the Mosaic profiling is that it doesn't just pull, boomers, singles, it breaks it down even further. So I had pulled for this example, Power Elites. So there's a different group of this boomer category. It isn't just, okay, everybody falls in the same, standpoint, because if you go back to when we create these personas, we have to think more than just demographic. So it's more than just, I fell into this age range and this is kind of where I am now grouped. It is, from a Power Elite standpoint, which from a nationwide, that is the most, this is the number 1 member type that YMCAs and JCCs are serving. So it is that 51 to 65-year-old. They are have a household income of 250K and up. They have children in their teens, they're homeowner, and then they are adopting technology. So they're not very they're not tech novice, but they're not a tech wizard. They might be they're into charitable giving. They're active and fit. They engage, up here is just kind of showing they're engaging with social media. And then there's a second portion of it that breaks it down even further, and we'll talk through how to market to them. Maybe this demographic, because they're adopting technology, they're okay with emails and digital information. But somebody else in this, in a boomer category might like a newspaper, or they like a piece of paper that they're used for marketing. So it allows us to kind of really do the job of what I talked about, building these personas and really just take that portion for you of the members that you're serving. So if you compare it, if we go from this to what we did for King Charles, you can take a look at, it's giving us a lot of those, initial research findings, and then we can add in some of the other stuff. What's the motivation? What are their pain points? What are their habits? So the activity and the portion that I would love you guys to bring back to your J's to work with your team on is doing this creative persona design thinking. So those of you who have done Post-it note technology or something along those lines, it is down that same path. And I'm going to send out the step-by-step of how to do this. But it's really all about creating these profiles so we can identify your members and how you can serve them better. So it's important because it allows you to have empathy for the individual. You get a deeper level of understanding of their motivation, their goals, their challenges, their pain points. We can then use that information to
How do I know that
really
I'm
focus on
not?
prioritizing what's important when it comes to, is there type of programming that we're missing that that this group would love, and maybe that's why you're not catering to that group, right? um Lisa and Lauren at Rockland, we did a lot of this when we built out, they built a powerlifting space because there was a missing group that they wanted to cater to. And so it allows you to really make better decisions on how do we buy equipment differently? How do we do layouts differently? How do we create more programming or to support the members that we want to support, or bring in members that, that we're not serving? And with that, I will open it up for questions.
Y'all can just unmute and ask Shayna any questions you have. I'm going to start off by saying I think these personas are so valuable and so important. Having been at a JCC for so long, our instinct and our inclination is to be all things to all people because we serve community. And I don't think we can succeed with that perspective. And I think by breaking down these personas and really knowing and identifying a cohort or two that we want to target and then doing the persona exercise, we can program so much more intelligently and more effectively. It's great data, Sean. Great.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. Well, Shane is going to share all the information and the deck with us. And again, as Joy had mentioned, the session has been recorded. The Murphy research that Shayna mentions in her presentation, if anyone is interested in seeing that, I can certainly share that with them. I have access to it, so please just reach out to me. I'm happy to share that with you. Last opportunity before we wrap, questions for Shayna. It was a lot to digest, but it was really a great presentation.
Hey, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Renee.
So this is sort of a persona related
Sure.
thing just with scheduling group exercise classes. It's a kind of a specific question, but there's like our prime time slot in the morning where we're getting that rush of, largely moms who have dropped off their kids from school and they're coming in. We have like an overcrowded situation in one studio with a bar format, and I'm really struggling with figuring out how to get people into our other studio, like how to
Like you have
appeal
one
to
class
that.
that's like really popular, and then another one that
Exactly.
is not
Exactly. And
popular.
it's like, borderline unsafe how many people keep crowding in, and there's a
What?
lot of hype built up now.
Yeah, I think, if you go back to the trending, Pilates has grown tremendously over the last probably year and a half. I think it's one of the top 5 most popular and like fastest growing group exercise um program now. So I'm not surprised that it's bursting at the seams. And you're struggling to get people to the other studio. Um so from like it could just be what's offered at the same time. It's just a very popular class that you have at a very popular time. And I bet that if you moved the class next door to a different time slot, you'll probably see that class fill up too.
Hmm.
It could just be two competing against each other. But that would be my guess, just knowing how things, like the trend. No, I'm not surprised to hear that.
So would it, like, I've sort of experimented for this current schedule, just putting two of the same formats going on at the same time in both studios to see if that would alleviate the overcrowding.
In one.
But yeah, it's, it's still just a few weeks in, but
So you're doing two
who
bar
knows?
classes at the same time?
Essentially, yes.
And how's that working?
So what's nice is the new class that was added on, it did get a nice turnout, but it just seemed like it got people who didn't want to be in the overcrowded room and had stopped going. So we didn't really fix the situation. It just got the people who weren't happy with how full and cramped it was, now they had an alternative.
Yeah, I mean, I think just personal experience, I think sometimes it depends on its instructor, right? So it could be
Right.
that whoever you have teaching that popular class, it's a popular class because your instructor's a rock star. And
Mhm.
people want to see her. So from like profiling standpoint, I don't know if like building out like what you could do is build out like maybe who you're not serving, to see how to create a different type of class for that space that would be welcoming to people who aren't interested in Pilates.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Renee. Anyone else have any questions for Shayna? This group is not usually this quiet.
That's okay.
All
There's
right, well,
for those of you that are going to be attending, I think it's the northern, like northeast wellness in person meeting that's coming up soon.
the regional,
The
there's
regional-
one
the
in,
regional one. DJ is our education manager. He's going to be doing the actual persona activity as part of one of the breakouts. So you'll be able to do it firsthand at that regional. But also happy to guide anybody if you want to do it with your team. When I send out the handout and you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me.
great. Shayna, thank you so much. Amazing information, a lot to digest. Thank you all so much for attending. I encourage you to take a look at the deck once we send it out or once it gets posted on JCCA. And I think you will be hearing from me soon with a date for our next peer community meeting, and stay well and stay warm.
If there's anyone attending any of the JCC regional conferences, please let me know. We have one that is going to be in the Mid-Atlantic region, one that is going to be in Texas, and one that's going to be in Northern California. So those are coming up in February and March. And of course, then we have the JCC Professional Conference in October. So start taking a look at your budgets and your staff and see who you might be sending to those kinds of regional conferences or the Continental Conference. Thank you again, Audrey. Thank you, Shayna. We really appreciate the time that you spent doing this. Spread the word about our peer communities. Please let people know so that they can join their peer communities as well. I appreciate all of you and all the work you do every day. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day. Stay warm. Take care.